Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, 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 beautiful hearts. Wow, we are taking an extraordinary journey in this quantum conversation. My guest today is a magnetic force of ancient magic and modern mysticism. He is Tyler Ellison, and he is a channel. He channels a hybrid ET. We're going to learn about how that came to be and the messages that are important at this time on the planet. Hi, Tyler. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Hey, Lauren, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. It's amazing to have this collaboration. I'm eager to get into all of the juicy details about ET contact, ancient societies, and prophecy.
And how do all of those tie in together? We've been having contact for millennia, then, is basically what you're saying. As we dive into that topic of alien contact and ancient symbols, let's first start with you. How did this come about in your life? What happened?
It's a great question. When I was young, I had a big fascination with magic. I had a big fascination with the ability to transcend the limit of the physical body and the limits that everyone around me believed were so true and permanent. I dabbled when I was younger with things like meditation, breathing exercises. Eventually, this led me into crystals. Eventually, this led me into plant teachers, which not really a part of my journey too much as an adult. But when I was younger, all of these forces started to come into my orbit to help me digest that magician archetype. I think of all of these things as enhancers of consciousness if used responsibly. That continued for a while. Me and a friend who were exploring this began practicing yoga, breathing exercises, meditations, and he introduced me to a very powerful channeled entity named Bashar. And this was my first exposure really with anything ET outside of mainstream movies and TV shows. So when I first heard this amazing channeler, Daryl Anka, bringing through Bashar, I didn't know it was an entity, didn't know really what entities even were at that point. You know, I knew of ghosts, right, and spirits, this concept of another being projecting in, right, from another dimension, that was a little bit beyond me at that time. The longer I stayed with those teachings, the more I began to apply what I heard. And a big takeaway was follow your bliss. And this is a very common teaching that many people forget. It's one of the most important ones. And as I followed that, it led me into a full-blown mystical experience that involved multiple UFO sightings over the course of a few years. So I began seeing triangular craft. At first, they were very large, looking like constellations, but they would move. They'd be following my vehicle, which sounds like kind of interesting, right? So I tested it one day. I was like, is this just an optical illusion from me driving in sync with the stars, right? So I parked my car and I proceeded to watch this constellation triangle fly over my friend's neighborhood, which was where I was driving to. So I called my friend up immediately. I'm like, dude, it's flying over your house. And
So,
yeah.
can I ask here, okay, just to get a better description of that craft, did you see it as lights in the shape of a triangle, or were
Correct.
you able to see the form as well? And then
The
that,
form came later. The form was my third UFO encounter. The first two were these very large triangular craft, and all you can see looked like three stars in an equilateral position. So it just looked like a constellation sort of moving, triangle shaped.
uh-huh.
Fast forward about, I'm going to say 4 years.
And
My
what year
oh
was the
sure,
first? Wait, sorry to interject. What
oh
was
sure.
the year of the first? Do you remember the year that was of your first?
This is going to be roughly 2013, 2012.
Wow. Okay, that's important. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. And after my time in Delaware, which is where all this had taken place, my home state, which is apparently one of the number one states for UFO sightings, which I've only found out as an adult. So interesting, I think. And I moved away living in Connecticut, studying acupuncture medicine, was at that time.
Mhm.
And while I'm there, I'm doubling down on all this stuff. My meditation's getting more elaborate, acquiring energy skills, basic stuff, Reiki and pendulums, things like this. And as I go deeper into the spiritual process, the synchronicities start getting stronger. And the full-blown craft sighting story is one of my favorites. I'm selling solar with friends, solar panels. We're going door to door, right? We're driving throughout Connecticut, going through neighborhoods, being like, hey, your roof's great for solar. And we stop at lunch on a day. It's a sunny day, and we are in sort of the boondocks, as they call it, of Connecticut, right? Just a lot of woods, not a lot going on, but we're in a nice restaurant, sort of maybe fast food, little upgraded style. And my friend Eric shows me this video unprompted. He's like, Tyler, look at this. And it's a video. This is before AI and any of this stuff, right? So it's a video of a shooting star over the pyramids in Egypt, and a little blip of light comes off the shooting star and starts moving in its own direction. And to most people, it's speculated that is a UFO hitching a ride on a comet or something like this. He shows me this, and I'm like, oh my God, so interesting. I wonder what will happen next. So we finish lunch, we do the door-to-door sales, everybody gets back in the company vehicle. We're on the way back to the office in New Haven, Connecticut. And on the highway, lo and behold, not high at all above the canopy of the trees, there is a hovering triangular craft with three lights on the corners. And I confirmed with everyone. I was like, hey, everyone, we all see this, right? And everyone's like, yep. And it was silent in the car because I was the only one besides Eric, I think, who had such an interest in that. He's the one who showed me that footage. And to me, it was an obvious synchronicity. If I'm seeing that on, a video earlier, and then I'm seeing this, and the whole pathway's been meditation and sightings, this is clearly leading to a deepening of contact. And it was that really close encounter that prompted the channeling specifically. I was like, I got to know what's going on here. Yeah.
Okay, that is so wild. So to clarify, that was in broad daylight.
This was at night on
Okay,
the drive back. On
as
the
you were.
drive back. Yeah.
Okay. And the other, okay, so your friend, he thought that was cool. What did the third person think?
There was a lot of no comment. There was a lot of no comment. And I think I was also like, this is very special. So my normal investigative skills were not being pushed. I wasn't like, what do you guys think? Do you believe now? I was more like, we all see that? Okay. And occasionally I bring it up with one of the friends that's there. He's become more of a believer. He was the lead in our solar team, and he's gone on to do more things in the solar industry. And this guy is he's an inventive friend. He can build things, very intellectual. He's hiking and somewhere in upstate New York, and he shows me a photo he took of a massive footprint in the
Oh,
snow. And he's like, he's convinced it is Sasquatch. So he's one of
and
those folks.
did it have a shoe or would it have toes?
Toast. This was toast. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I got chills on this.
Uh,
Wow.
and we know that the ET Sasquatch connection, right, is a very alive one in the contact community that relationship's talked about. And I think for everybody in that vehicle, that sighting was a big eye opener. And it's my belief it's led to numerous synchronicities for each person involved following it.
Yeah, so wow. Okay, I've got major chills right now. It's almost like, all right, you say the word synchronicity, and that's a great indicator of soul connection and communication. And yet it was an activation. There's something that happened on that sighting. You were activated. Did you notice anything? Did you feel anything? And then tell us how you started channeling.
Sure. So for the way I felt, it was all speechless, all, and it was very validating. When I saw it, it was confirmation. I am barking up the right tree. I need to keep following this thread because it's getting more and more obvious. In terms of when I started channeling, I began channeling approximately 2013, 2014. So I actually had been practicing channeling a little bit before that really close sighting. And my first relationship with channeling was with a Pleiadian collective described as Mira. I had never heard of Mira. And I had used a sacred symbol to contact the Pleiades, meditating with the symbol, sleeping with it under my pillow. I actually made the symbol by hand, and I suggest people do that with any sacred symbols. If you can get like cardboard paper or colored paper and scissors, right? Like physically make a cool symbol because it makes it so strong. So I'm immersing myself with the Pleiadian symbol, and then I essentially go into the state that I was trained to go into. I had found some online channeling recordings, right? How to channel classes, and I'm, applying what I know. And the entity introduces themselves as Mira. They give a lot of, I find, very good information. It was very new for me. And when I get on the internet, I start Googling, Mira Pleiades, and there's other people around the world who have also tuned into it. And I had no knowledge of it. And that was again, these are those early validators. And I
Yes.
feel the universe really hooked me up and a lot of people up with the early validators. So we never forget. I think that's really important because it is a beautiful, illusory reality. And sometimes forgetfulness comes with illusions and light shows. So I have found that those moments give me, to this day, inspiration, faith, and confidence in the journey.
Wow, and just listening to your story gives me confidence as well. And anybody else out in our audience who has had experiences and sightings. I just want to say very quickly, my husband and son and I had an experience in our house. We were up in 8,000 feet, and a ship came from afar, and we saw every time we saw it, it come close and it would just illuminate and fade away, illuminate and fade away. It stood over our house for 40 minutes or so. I didn't even think to get our camera. It was 2008. No, it was 2009, January. And the next day, because my husband didn't read about it in the newspaper, he didn't believe it was real. And so this helps us because and so you made that connection. So it became super real to you. How do you feel about that? This has to be a soul contract. Have you thought about
Certainly.
that?
I'm pretty confident that's what it is because I don't think I could have made it this far in this world without that. There's so many people offering things, right? And what I have offered, it really resonates with me. It was inspired by people I consider to be my mentors, the channeler who I still look up to, Daryl. And I find that when I really sit with all of this, it shines a light that I can't look away from.
Thank you for that. That is your authenticity coming through, and that is helping all of us believe in what we see and what we experience. I love how you said that you channeled the Pleiadian collective. That is a real beautiful opening then for this. So then, okay, then what happened after you channeled the Pleiadian collective? How did
So
Ryoka?
great question. So following this, I'm channeling Mira from my friends, and it's going nice. It's going nice. And then I kind of hit a wall with it where I end up channeling at a party. It's a conscious party, right? But I'm here thinking everyone is all about this. These are open-minded, alternative people. And I go to channel there, and there's a person there, a woman. I describe her as a there's a word to describe this sort of person, but I would describe her as someone who knows a lot of spiritual information, and then because of that, there's sort of an over projection of reality onto situations. So she sees me channeling essentially, and she's like, it's not supposed to sound like this. You sound like a robot. This is like, oh, and she starts kind of cursing the channeling, while I'm in the state. And I had a friend there, and I'm very grateful for him. He actually, uh, it escalated, right? He like stood up and kind of, barked at her a little bit, like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" This is like I was defended by someone, and I actually had forgotten about that part. I'm glad we're this earns that person love points in my world. I completely forgot about this, but he defended me from essentially her verbal projections and or her sense of spiritual superiority, more or less. Um, I would say, it's like if you channeled and a Christian came up to you and was like, "Get out of here." It was that kind of energy, but from an esoteric place rather than a traditional religious place. I took a break from channeling naturally after that because I was like, whoa, like the state felt really, it didn't feel as safe right after it. It kind of felt like my nervous system was like, is that going to happen again? And I didn't realize that actually had this reviewing my story is useful. I'm realizing how much of this is actually a part of, my psychology to this day in a certain sense.
It was almost like a real test for you. It was a real, it was a real, like if someone comes at us and doubts what we're doing, it makes you even more stronger in your conviction then, did it?
I certainly think so. And the reason I say this is because less than a few months later, I start getting back into it. I start channeling for my girlfriend that I was in a relationship with at the time. The confidence came back because she's like, "You do what now? This is so different." So the relationship I was in really reignited the channeling passion. The relationship over time, it ended, shifted. I became single again. So a lot more time for meditation, a lot more time for spirituality. I joined a Facebook group, and there's a bunch of people that are all focused on channeling the Sasani. I had been dabbling with many different species, and I had started putting the recordings on YouTube. I did one for the Sasani, and I personally felt, whoa, when I channel this, I'm like alive. There is electricity flowing through me. And it was intoxicating. It was very noticeable. So I began first just channeling Sasani collective consciousness, and I'm doing that with these group members. They saw the video I had posted. They're like, hey, we see you're tuning in. Come join us. We're all trying to bring our counterparts in. So we're all taking turns practicing. And I brought through, at the time, Ryoka. Now it's elongated to Ryoka. And initially it was just Ryoka. And these guys grilled Ryoka. They wanted to make sure it was real. So they were asking all types of really advanced things I had no clue about, but they totally knew. They were asking about other channeled entities, what Ryoka thought of them, what their energy was, all types of things. I can barely remember what it was at this time. But I remember when they brought up the one thing I definitely didn't know, I was like, all right, dude, you take the wheel. And he answered. He answered very elaborately. And that built a very strong desire to keep going and to keep that fire burning. And it just kept deepening. Eventually, I reached out to that collective consciousness and I was like, hey, you guys, this is really fun. I love the energy. And I'm desiring to work with a single being from your collective who can represent you through me. And they gave me a warning. They were like, we can do this, but if you do this, your life will never be the same. If you do this, this will be your life. Are you prepared for that? And I said, yes. And here we are about over 10 years later, I think, just about. It's been a very long time. I think I made contact with them almost 10 years. I don't want to exaggerate. I think I made that contact with that group about 2016, 2017. So with Ryoka, I would say it's just shy of 10 years, maybe going on 7 or 8. And then channeling as a whole, that's over a decade at this point, which is crazy. If time flies.
Time flies. What I find remarkable in your whole story is that A, you loved meditation, yoga, and breathing exercises as a kid. What kind of kid is doing that? So there you go. You're an old soul, apparently, obviously, and you're here, and that led you into this communication and channeling the Pleiadian collective. And then, wow. So when you started to channel the Sasani and then Ryoka, how did your life change? How did your energy change? Did you notice anything there?
I got a lot of third eye crown chakra activations, and I wish I knew what I knew now for when I
Mm.
was going through that time. I loved it. I mean, I was like on fire with energy, and channeling great things. Meanwhile, it's like I'm ascending up to Mars metaphorically, then I come back down to Earth. The integration for me was pretty challenging to go from essentially relative, entity omniscience to I'm a human being. That was very challenging for me. It was hard for me to put down the type of the hat, if you will, that is worn during the channeling, right, as the entity. And I found that it was a very fun way to live, but it made everything way too upper mind. People would come to me like friends with their issues and problems, and immediately I would like an ET start analyzing it, and they're like, hey man, I'm just looking for like some compassion. Like, you don't have to try to solve all my problems, right? So there was a big learning for me in how to balance those two roles. I feel at this point I'm getting the hang of it, and I think the world's happier for it, which I'm also happy for it. For anyone who wants to channel ETs, it's wise to practice energy hygiene. It's wise to make sure all your meridians are open, the chakras are clear. It's important to have a sense of ethics and purpose. Why are you channeling? Where is it bringing people? Because that is an amplifying action. The channeling will make everything bigger. The misalignments eventually get burned up, right? So if you start channeling and not everything's like crystal clear, the process will clean the person, right? Over time, you can save yourself a lot of chaos if you start a good energy hygiene practice, breathing exercises, and remember, we all come from mothers, and for just about every person that we've known, right? These clay bodies go back into the earth, right? So it's important to remember, I think, those humbling things if one is going to move into these types of positions of conveying extra dimensional wisdom, because people are very receptive to it. They listen, they want the view. And the clearer the channel, the more sophisticated, technical, and clear the view is. So these are my personal suggestions for people if they want to start working with them. Angels are a little different. I think they're a little more gentle to channel. Aliens, ETs, they can be really powerful because they're sort of like us, especially the ones that are quasi-physical or are totally physical. They actually have DNA. And with the Sasani, they are a hybrid species that are essentially built upon our genetic template, a hybridized version of it.
Have you seen an image of the Sasani?
I have only seen them portrayed in my dreams as light beings. So
Okay.
they're so, to me, they're so potent that when I see them, they might as well be like a glowing person. The dream actually was me and the channel, Daryl Anka were in the dream, and we're looking at each other, and all of a sudden he turns into a light being and starts to fly, and I do the same thing with him. And it's so exciting that I like wake up, physically. So to me, I think they're so potent that the psychology that we possess almost has to get used to it. So at that stage, they just look like pure light. For beings that I have seen beings, I hesitate to call them gray because I feel like gray can be an umbrella term for actually a lot of different types of beings. The beings that I have seen open-eyed physically, I was in a very heightened state, a very unstable heightened state, I might add as well. So if you start to see ETs, keep calm, breathe. I'm sitting in essentially in a it's private property. I'm in a trance essentially. And I wandered to this location, and I had an artifact with me. A friend of mine from Egypt brought. He had given it to me, and it was an unusual artifact. It depicted a small gray alien with a tall woman behind him, and she was holding her hands over his ears. So I had been sleeping with this object. I'd been spending a bunch of time with it, and I'm doing all these big meditations. And eventually it worked me up into something really ancient and almost hypnotic. So I was walking, and then it's like my mind would shut off, appearing somewhere else. And eventually I'm in this location with trees around me, and I put the object down. I sensed like I was supposed to put it there. And when I put it down, I see essentially two-dimensional hybrid gray, almost silver skin beings starting to like peer out from the trees. Like they slide out like this, and there's a bunch of them all just watching me. And I remember thinking, oh man, this is the moment I've been waiting for. And I also was in such a worked up state. It's like, at that point, I'm like, cool, what next? It was really a lot. Those types of activations, folks like myself, I think, go through them. We love crazy. Like I love going into the novel, chaotic situation and finding the center point. So I really pushed myself in some unusual ways. The reason I do that is because it's my belief if I go through these kinds of things, if other people go through these kinds of big activations, for the rest of the populace, the activation can be more gentle, more gradual. It doesn't have to be so removed from our usual experience. In order for that contact to happen, I was like blipping out. They had to like dissolve me to the point where I was almost like a baby. Like that's my mind. Like that's how I was in that moment. I was almost like a baby. And it was like I was in the background just watching everything. It was like baby Tyler had the wheel, and like higher mind Tyler is just like we're watching. So it was a strange state. And all I have to say about it is I think it's a premonition of what is to come. And I think if we play our cards right, all of the people meditating, working on ascension, working on their relationships, I think if we really honor that, we can expect gentle contact that can have a very healthy effect psychologically on people instead of one that's shocking or disassociative. That's what we want to avoid because fight or flight, right? If the nervous system gets spiked with these beings, a being will either want to fight them or freeze or run away. And so we want to do the groundwork to the best of our ability. But those are some of my biggest contact experiences with actually seeing these beings.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Part of me is sensing that you have, I don't know, have you contemplated that this could be an aspect of your higher self? As with Daryl, isn't the being he channels, isn't Bashar his higher self? Or what do we know about that?
That's a great question because I think a lot of people wonder about the identity of these beings. The way it's been explained to me and the way I experience it is we really are our own higher selves at the end of the day, right? So the higher self and the lower self are all extensions of us. So we can think of ourselves as a trinary entity, upper, middle, lower self, and they ideally all work together. And in the magical path, the alchemical path, they're actually blended together, forming a super self. So the person becomes a living embodiment of that higher self consciousness. With Ryoka, with what we would describe as these externalized beings, I think of them as reflectors and revealers of the higher self. So Ryoka oftentimes will encourage me to do my own research to look into things. He's very like, Tyler, you need to evolve, grow. So go out into the world, do your research, explore, and expand. This is one of the biggest senses that I get from him. When I go into my very deep state and I extend my mind upper and lower, becoming, kind of the middle pillar of existence, right? In the visualization, when I do this, I can feel that view and the information that I need comes. I would describe that view almost as the view of my higher self. And when I'm doing it, there's a similar confidence that comes from when I'm channeling Ryoka, but it does feel very different than that, right? The same type of bombastic personality, it's not necessarily there in that state. So I think these beings are different than the personal higher self. I think they reveal it, they help us to sense it, and they guide us to form a relationship with it. And I think that's important because we want to develop the soul and spirit here. If we give too much of our identity and power to our channeled friend, it's like, they might get fed, but what about us? Right. So I think that self-evolution is and validation for your own connection is quite important.
And wow, all right. Well, look at where we are 10 years 13 years after 2012. And that when you began this experience, it was right around that window of great awakening. So you are right. This is where we are headed as a society. And so when we see this world crumbling down, we're going to hear from Ryoka in a channeling from you. But I want your take on this. When we see this old world crumbling down and what's to be filled in from that. Oh my gosh, what is your impression of what's then to come? Because I can see it. More of us are going to be having deeper connections, being more authentic, expressing things and intelligence in a totally different way. How do you see what's going on right now with what is expected to be our future?
So we are definitely at a point where many futures are possible. For the timeline of ascension, the future, I think, can manifest in quite a few ways. So the realities that we are all in, my reality, your reality, the reality of all the individual audience members, these are unique realities. They all have their own unique timelines. So it looks like we're all on the same timeline. We turn on the news, we see some of the same stories, but that is a collective illusion. And there's more and more evidence for this every day. There's people hanging out with each other all day, and one will recount experiences that did not happen that day. that were supposed to have happened while the two people were together. So I've seen this. This has happened in my life. So we have this illusion of it's a shared reality. But when we review our past and our experiences, it's clear we're all actually walking different timelines with different synchronicities. So what ascension looks like, I sense, is going to be very varied person to person. In terms of what I sense we can expect for the future as a collective, to simplify and not be so vague with all the possibilities, Ryoka has described it in the following way. With the advent of 3D printing, things getting more and more and more sophisticated, people are going to be able to print their own resources, their own building materials. Essentially, won't have to go to stores anymore. You can just like print things from your home. If people have to acquire information about how to do things, the internet's going to be essentially a free school. People will be able to learn just about any skill. I also sense that there will, at a certain point, be some kind of social assistance program, probably a blend between socialism and capitalism, which I know might trigger some people, but hey, I love having public library. I think the roads being fixed are great. I think that healthcare and food, water, shelter are great things to give to people. And I think if people have a baseline income, they can rest more easily on that hierarchy of needs, like those lower two levels of the pyramid are filled. So now they can focus on self-actualization, transcendence, and below those two, their relationships. If people don't have those needs, those three upper parts of that pyramid are so much harder to reach. So I think there's going to be some kind of system put in place where everybody has a baseline and people can then build on top of that baseline. So we're not getting, I don't think we're going to be getting rid of personal abilities to accumulate wealth, treasure. I think we're going to be creating the ability for more people to access that through guaranteeing a baseline. So no one has to fear essentially losing everything. I can see so clearly and feel the sigh of relief that humanity as a whole produces when those two levels of the pyramid are really fulfilled. I think everybody will feel so much better. And then we can really focus on the ascension process, which is, for most people, something they have no concept of. To them, they're seeing weird numbers on the clock and the days feel like minutes. You know, that's a lot of people's sense of it. So with these conversations, we get to take them a little further.
Yes, thank you. And I even run into people in my life who talk about dogma of religion. I mean, even though, we sit here and we have this show and we talk these elevated things, there's still people in my life, very, very close people in my life who are under the dogma of religion, and even they are sensing something, this time speeding up. And yet there's a fear factor. And so that is assisting me and all of us to assist even those who are still caught up in the institutionalized religion. I think it's a great starting point for people, but it's interesting that, wow, that there could still be this fear. And so I don't want to get too far off subject, but I just find that fascinating that, like what you said, there are so many people that don't even know what ascension is. And so, what do you think about institutionalized religion and dogma, the second coming of Christ? People are really fearful that if they're living in sin or doing bad things, then they will be forever in hell for eternity. And so that's just really interesting. Isn't it interesting that that's coming up in my life and people that I know? Wow.
Certainly, certainly. I've seen it too. I think with the change in politics, or there's an increase in some of the religious focus. I think too, the Pope recently dying and now new Pope Leo, right? There is a lot of spotlight on that religious architecture and scaffolding. For religion, I certainly respect people's belief systems. If you're part of a religion, I will never attempt to talk you out of it. I'll only tell you what I know so you can build upon your faith and spiritual relationship. That's my main goal. And so you can be a good person and socially thrive with your human brothers and sisters. So that's the main thing I want to share before we get into the dissecting of religion, because it is a very important subject. So religion has almost always been used as a system of organization. So we can look at that in its most inward way. as yoga and inner alchemy. So balancing the chakras, deifying the chakras, seeing celestial beings, incarnating into them to acquire power. We call this the esoteric dimension of religion. This is the inner experience that produces the gnosis, the revelation that intoxicates the mystic with faith and total allegiance to that light that has revealed itself to them. So a person essentially obtains samadhi, right? The mystic, through this type of deitical and inner energetic process. Now we got to teach that method. We have to deliver the words of these beings. So this is where the exoteric face of religion comes from. And these are the outer rituals. These are the outer ceremonies for the lay people whom they have families. They may run businesses. They may be involved in the society. So they don't have time to do all these elaborate practices. So what do? You give them prescription rituals on special days and a code of conduct to live by. And this is where the first religions come from in their most innocent and pure form. When we look at how that's been misused, there's a lot we can talk about. I'm not, gonna badmouth religion, but obviously there's a few people whom, after that initial mystical experience, a few generations down, they get a little removed from that current, right? Maybe the founder of the religion really tapped in, but now it's a few generations later. We got other people that are on the the esoteric side, the inner circle. Maybe they're less aligned with the divine. Maybe they think it's sort of superstition. Granddad was really into it. He talked to God, and he started this organization, but we know he just did that because he was trying to help all of us, right? His children and grandchildren. So now that original current's getting diminished, and those that are in the esoteric circle, because their faith and power is diminished, then start to rely on the followers. So this is where they start to get involved in things like government. This is where they start to get involved in things like social control. And this is also where, because their faith and consciousness is descending, their ability to receive the messages and translations from the holy books also diminishes. So what is supposed to be a recipe for ascension turns into all the crazy dogma we hear today that makes absolutely no sense for our modern age. And that makes no sense really for our future. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of if they're not good, just get rid of them, end them. It's I don't think that's necessarily the answer. If psychedelic research has shown us anything, the brain is very malleable. Neuroplasticity is greatly enhanced from psychedelics, and people can evolve so much compassion and love. And I speak about that because I think they're the most obvious examples of what can be used to help really open someone's mind. It's not for everybody, and it can increase the risk of mental illness. So we want to keep in mind that no matter how dogmatic someone may be, no matter how fixed somebody may be, there's always a miraculous light that can remind them of their original template. And a lot of the New Age folks talk about a solar flash coming, right? So what is that? That is high frequency photons that can bring people back to that original template. It's an aha moment. It's an aha moment where the dogma is suspended. It's like the flash illusion is cast away. When we talk about a second coming of Christ, and then we think of the New Age prophecy of a solar flash, there's some correspondence there. Christ has always been the Son of God, seen as a solar entity, a solar deity. So when we look at that as the solar flash, it can be perceived as the Christ consciousness coming from the sun and enveloping the planet. In the Kabbalah, the heart center is associated specifically with the sun. So the solar flash is corresponding with the heart openings. So I think that with religious text, translating it literally is okay. I think if you only do that, though, the person will run into a wall. There's going to be a lot of confusion. I interpret religious texts as if I were interpreting a dream and as if God were giving me a puzzle.
Mm.
This is how I look at religious texts, and I find I'm able to derive meanings that when I apply them, they give me in the moment results. And the point of these texts is so the true spiritual knowledge can be seen by those with higher consciousness. So the real secrets of the religion don't die, thus allowing for religion to fulfill its role as essentially collective training wheels for contact with divinity.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for that. That really makes a lot of sense. And, it is a door. It is a beautiful doorway to higher consciousness if folks can then reach beyond that. And so thank you for sharing that perspective.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you said a lot there, and I just love this conversation. Let's learn about Sasani and Ryoka.
Mhm.
So you're going to channel Ryoka in a moment. Do you want to add anything? I could ask Ryoka what an ET hybrid is and what their purpose is, but I would like to ask you from the outside to preface who are the Sasani and ET hybrids? Where are they? What's their purpose? What's the most important message they've got?
I believe their most important message is the same message as the Hermetic alchemist's message, which is know thyself. I say Hermetic alchemists, we can see this in Greek philosophy too, but this is really the key. This is the thing that I sense we need the most and that they constantly push people to discover. Their big message is follow your bliss, follow your passion, your joy, your excitement. That's how the Bashar specifically describes. He used the word excitement. In order to know these things, we have to have a connection with ourselves. If we don't have that intuitive, empathic relationship with the inner self, it's as if our compass is a little deactivated. The most exciting option, if it were to present itself to a person who doesn't accept themselves or maybe they don't believe in themselves, that option might get translated as fear. They might feel ambivalent, like I like it, but oh, I don't know. And they might misinterpret that, think it's not for them, right? So, in order for us to really follow our external joy and bliss, we have to know our internal joy and bliss first. This is my belief. And the big thing Ryoka teaches is go within. His major technique for people is inner energy work. Almost every transmission that we do, it ends with inner alchemy. So we're bringing people inside themselves, doing visualizations in the body, producing neuropeptides and chemicals, energies of love so the person knows that feeling. It becomes more normal. So when they open their eyes, their detection for where that's reflected, it's going to be a heightened detection. They'll be able to say, that's definitely for me. I feel it. That, I don't know. Maybe old me. I don't know about the new one. So know thyself and go within to go without.
Beautiful. And that is the ancient wisdom that's been on our planet. And so when we're saying that ETs have been here for millennia, that's really where these temples were built for, where Egypt was built to honor these things. Do you want to add anything about that before we channel Ryoka?
Absolutely. With these ancient sites and temples, if you can go to them, I recommend it. If
Mm.
you can surround yourself with those kinds of structures, it will turn on your DNA ancestral memory and it will help you to synchronize with what life was like when these beings would manifest in the temples, when their chariots, when their light ships would hover above. It will bring you to that time when your ancient ancestors were having such experiences. And as we awaken that template of light that allows for such an overlay to happen, we increase the acceleration of the open contact process.
Wow. All right. Okay. And so if we can travel there in person, that's wonderful. But
Mhm.
we can travel there astrally as well, energetically as well through meditation. That's a whole nother subject and maybe classes that you can share or things like this
Oh, certainly.
discuss later.
I'm
But yeah.
over here in Delaware, and my distance from Sedona, Arizona has in no way impacted my ability to connect to Bell Rock. So it's
Wow.
very true. And I
Wow.
I'm loving the idea of the class because it's a really simple focus to synchronize with any location on Earth.
See that? See that? That's powerful. And that is a next level of awareness and task to reach for that energy, to visit that energy, to receive that energy, to be surrounded by it. It's almost like our consciousness is going to enter the holographic field and receive information that way. Wow. Okay, I just got that on a whole new level. Thank you. Good. So what do you need to do to prepare to bring in Ryoka?
It's pretty straightforward. I'm in a kind of a crisscross applesauce posture now. I just got to get comfortable,
Okay.
close my eyes. In terms of what the audience will see, it's a few moments of silence. You might see me move my eyes, my head a little bit. I might do some things with my hands, maybe a little toning. Usually it's straightforward. On special occasions, though, events like this, sometimes the actual synchronization might be a little unusual. So we will see how it unfolds, but it will be obvious once the connection has been made. He's not shy. So he'll reveal himself very quickly once it's stabilized.
Great. Thank you. We are looking forward to it, Tyler. Thank you.
You're super welcome. And thanks for having us. I will go into the trance and I'll see you on the other side. Oh, we thank you for joining us for this ecstatic co-creative interaction that we share with one another. He's here, he's now of your times. How are you?
We are so pleased to be with you. Welcome to our platform. We first want to know more about you. Who are you?
Thank you for asking. I am a ambassador for my people. My role is to transmit Sasanian culture and information about my civilization and our way of life to all members of your human family. To assist in that transmission of information, I travel with what are described as the hybrid children. Many of them now are more grown, teenagers, some of them young adults. They are genetically similar to your species in a way that is greater than my species' genetic similarity. As a result, they are a very helpful go-between. They are able to, in a sense, pre-digest the information and the knowledge that is a part of my civilization. And through their processing of that, they make that information and knowledge more human. So as my mind and craft broadcast this information throughout your ley line network, it's more easily understood. It is, in a sense, more easily accepted in that it's natural, it makes sense, and the energy behind it shines. So that way, there is a sense of obviousness behind the words that point to the reality the words are representing.
Thank you. So you said that you are broadcasting to the ley line network on our planet. Can you share more about this? What's going on there?
To describe the ley line network, think of rivers of light that flow a little differently than the rivers of water that you see on your planet on the surface level. The ley lines have their origin point within the core of the earth. Think of the core of the earth as a heart. The ley lines are like a circulatory system. So the light the energy and information from the center of the Earth is then broadcast through the Earth's electromagnetic pulse. Some of that energy envelops the whole planet through the electromagnetic circulation, and some of that energy stays within the Earth and it moves through this ley line network. As it moves through the ley line network, the energy activates and nourishes multidimensional inner Earth realities. It nourishes what you would describe as the deep reservoirs of Jing or essence that feed the surface level beings and everything in between. As these ley line networks get closer to the surface, they become attracted to locations on the surface that represent potent points of spiritual power. You call them earth chakras. So the ley lines will gravitate to the earth chakras that most greatly correspond with the information and energy that they are carrying. The earth chakra will then draw upon celestial influences, and the ley line network in that way absorbs information through the earth chakra, and information is brought back from the chakra through the ley line network back to the planet's core. This is the mechanics of the ley line network. In terms of what we see and how it is functioning, different locations on your planet are going through a process of, in some instances, detoxification, in other instances, activation. There are planetary chakras on the surface that, from our view, would benefit from cleaning, removing some of the older energies. Remember, certain cities have been built over these places. So there's a lot of energy being fed into them that perhaps is not as intentional or focused as it could be. So there are certain chakras that would benefit from a hygienic upgrade. This will allow for there to be greater health within the corresponding communities and ecosystems relevant to the chakra. There are other chakras that are receiving potent activations. These are the chakras that are in naturalistic areas. These are the chakras that correspond with certain spiritual communities or ancient cities that are built upon sacred mathematics designed to draw upon the energy of the chakras. So we see the ley line network going through a simultaneous detoxification and activation. And this is one of the reasons why things can feel a little tipsy-turvy on the planet. You are simultaneously letting go whilst elevating yourselves and climbing higher. You become lighter and lighter and lighter as you climb, and the challenges become easier and easier and easier. Over time, less and less and less energy is needed to actually transform and detoxify the qualities present in some of those earth chakras that are not necessarily being managed as specifically or intentionally as they could be.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's talk about the Earth's ascension and humanity's ascension. Can you help us identify then Gaia is going through her ascension? Humans are here to actually assist in that ascension. What can we do? What is a protocol for all of us to assist Gaia? And maybe you can share exactly what Gaia is going through and then what we're all going through.
Gaia is birthing a child of light. And that child of light is like an orb of light. Think of a sun within the center of the planet. See that the sun is made of golden energy. The golden light is spiraling towards a center point. Think of that golden light as all of the love, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom and experience of your Earth Mother. The center point, all of that diversity of information is being blended together in a balanced way, forming a diamond-like luminous orb within the nucleus of this inner Earth sun. It is an upgrade. What is initially a small orb of light within this nucleus of the inner Earth sun will eventually expand. And this child of light in the core of the Earth will become the size of this inner Earth Gaian heart that you can conceptualize as the core of the planet. So it is as if the inner Earth sun has birthed a little sun in the nucleus, and now that inner sun is expanding to become as great as its mother. and its energies with the energies of the Earth Mother together shall move through that ley line network. Think of it as a mix: golden light, diamond light, brightness. These two energies will cause on your surface a simultaneous activation of your crown chakra and your root chakra, your perineum. The center point of these points, your heart. So as this child of light increases in its strength, in its love, in its power, those on the surface shall experience a blending. That which is above and that which is below energetically will be brought into the heart center. This is coinciding with the solar activations, the opening of the heart, and as you in the channel were describing, the realization of Christ consciousness, which you call the second coming. And all we have to say is Christ does not come alone. The Christ brings many friends, many family members. What is the Christos? The anointed one. Who is the anointed one? The one who can see. Who is the one whom can see? The one whom has opened the eye of the heart. When opposites are put together, they can be seen as different expressions of the same entity. And thus, the words of the Christos are fulfilled. The kingdom of the source is within you and around you. This is what is occurring within your inner earth core. And it is creating a cascade of awakening, realization, and perhaps even revelation, realization, gnosis for many. And it is ushering you into your new golden age, which draws upon a trinary force: Sirius, Saturn, Sun.
Wow, thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so the path for humans. What is the most important message for us to do in this shift of the ages, in this expansion of light?
To recognize what it is that causes your light to shine. The light within attracts the light without through resonance. Discovering the light within is synonymous with discovering one's true spiritual identity, discovering one's true purpose, and discovering one's act of service. Remember, you live in the present moment. You are all the gift that continues to give. You keep on giving. When you acknowledge that you are made of light, all of a sudden, the limits that are placed on the self become less binding. Because as you know, all you have to do is look up at the sky and adjust your eyes, and you will see pixels, photons, chi fluttering around. Light moves, light's malleable, light can be programmed. Everything's made of light, that's why everything changes. If it was truly physical, truly fixed, nothing would happen in physical reality. It'd be totally inert, just as your ancients thought the earth was. So, recognize, first and foremost, light can be programmed. You are made of light. You have been programming yourself your entire life with the help of your collective. And when I say help, I'm being a little playful. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's hurtful. We understand that in your dualistic paradigm. Nevertheless, you and others have been busy programming your light body. When you realize you are actually a master programmer and you are already a being of light, it's simply a matter of redirecting focus. So what is it that makes the light shine? Where does the light come from? This is when you start to get into the mind of the source, the all that isness of the existence business, if you will. The source of all sources. It is this that causes your light to shine. And it is this infinite mind of love and wisdom that possesses your cosmic template. As you start to synchronize with your inner source, you are able to connect with what you perceive to be the outer source. Your ancient Kabbalists perceived the abode of the outer source as being above the universe. Think of an ocean of light as the ceiling of the cosmos. This is how they perceived the outer source. There's more elaborate ways of conceptualizing it, but for simplistic understandings, you can conceptualize it in that way. And as you commune with that inner source, you attract your experience of the personal attention of the outer source. Remember, you are always observed by the source. But when you acknowledge your inner divinity, when you acknowledge you are a child of existence, a child of the cosmos, a child of the source of all sources, it is then that that bridge of communication is made contact. And this is when you can more easily see what you would call the synchronicities of your life purpose reflected around you. These are the higher levels of self-love. This is self-love beyond the ego. This is self-love beyond the body. Because if you are to truly be a being of light, you must get to know your soul. You must get to know your spirit. For they are the dimensions of you that shall live on eternally. Therefore, what they prompt you to focus on in this lifetime will support you in your eternal abode as a spiritual immortal, should you go all the way with your ascension process.
Oh, thank you. This is an activation. Your words are activating our DNA. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You are very
Wow. Ooh, okay. So many directions we can go on this. I want to step back into the history of our planet. Let's go way back. Let's go way, way, way back. What do you know about Lemuria and the fall from grace and the last ascension cycle where the Earth was due to join the other planets in this solar system and ascend? And we took in the laggards. Where are the laggards from? We took in the laggards because we believed that our love would influence them so that we could all ascend. That did not happen. Do you have a viewpoint on this?
sure. So, taking in the laggards, an interesting way to describe it, and we can elaborate on this. We'll paint a picture. The hubris and the narcissism, the excessive pride that brought down Atlantis began bubbling up in the Lemurian civilization. The Lemurians were very close to nature. They were incredibly connected to their star family. They were able to receive schematics, instructions, knowledge, and personal contact to assist them in the organization of their bodies, their relationships, and the society. In this way, humanity was less obsessed with the concept of free will. Humans voluntarily opened their mind to connect to the upper realities so they could be channels for those energies. So the Lemurians were natural channelers, and they used the divine light, the wisdom of their cosmic family, to assist them in maximizing the natural resources that they had, and to assist them in crafting these natural resources into beautiful structures, into beautiful cities. Some Lemurians took a more, you could say, traditional indigenous approach. Most of their structures were temporary, designed to actually be dissolved as to not leave their mark. Others began over time to say to themselves, but these are such beautiful structures. Let's make them last a little bit longer. So we are known. So our stories, our ways, and our relationships are remembered. That is the beginning of the pride, the desire for the recognition. The Lemurians began to expand outwardly. And what did they find? They found other groups of humans, less cultured, less capable in terms of sophisticated technical understandings and applications of such understandings. So many Lemurians began to introduce these ways into other groups of human populations, thus increasing human understanding. Now, these Lemurian colonies over time became a little less and less and less connected. They became a little more and more and more independent over time. As this is happening, the Earth is going through changes. The transmission of the knowledge is activating many, many, many people, many, many, many groups, and many, many, many locations around the planet. And as this is happening, the Lemurians and the Earth begin densifying. So what was once utopia then became perhaps a little less luminous, a little bit more solid, a little bit more dense. And the Lemurians were not used to this. It brought up the DNA that is relevant to the animal self. And this is where the monkey mind received its first major empowerment in a long time. As a result, certain colonies desired independence. One of them you call Atlantis. This type of pattern, because it was so new, was not balanced. And as a result, the main continent that you describe as Lemuria sunk. It sunk through the shifting of tectonic plates due to deep oceanic volcanoes, representing the energy upgrade and empowerment from that root chakra, that animal self. But because it was not balanced, because it was not understood, it manifested as a destructive force. Atlantis watches this and says, oh, look, that's what happens when you try to live in synchrony with nature. It betrays. Let's control. And you are still dealing with some of this karma to this day.
Yes, thank you for sharing that story.
You are welcome.
So then the follow-up question would then be, we're in this shift now, and it's time to correct that course, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that why you're here? Is that why you're here? And can you share more on the hybrids? Are the hybrids here to raise the frequency of the human heart?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. They're reminding you of your original genetic song as it expresses within the symphony that is the galactic musical choir and orchestra. Keep in mind, your DNA is musical. It is vibratory. You all give off a signature frequency. Many of you have forgotten that signature frequency. You describe it as losing touch with yourselves. The hybrids, they know themselves. We are ourselves. It's all we are. What else is there to be? Everyone else is being who they are. Time to be who you are, who we are, you see. So the hybrid children know themselves. Because they are connected to you, and because they are connected to a myriad of other species, their self-knowledge translates in the minds of humans as alignment with that inner song that is the signature frequency. So they are meant to help you find your own song so you can sense how your song is pivotal, important, and included in the galactic symphony that is played by the star family.
Thank you, thank you, thank you again.
Uh,
Wow.
we show up during pivotal times in humanity's process. This is not the first time we have shown up. This is not the first time we have revealed ourselves. Remember, you have a Sasanian civilization physically that existed in your Middle East. So we have been here, and we do not operate alone. We show up when the vibration is conducive for collaboration. In your 1940s, you showed your knowledge of the material universe in devastating ways. This was an indicator for many beings. Your intellect was rising to such an extent that your ability to balance it with love was beginning to become compromised. Hence all of the mass destruction of your 1940s and the years before that, but specifically the 40s with the advent, the creation of the atomic weapons. When we and other extraterrestrials saw this, it was obvious. You're all becoming very clever, very smart. You're figuring out all the codes. You're figuring out how things are built and how you can take them apart. Let's make sure their heart of compassion, their heart of respect, their heart of empathy is energized. So the wisdom of unconditional love can flow through their beautiful intellect, thus guiding them to higher pathways that will allow collaboration between our kind and them. So when we see that a society has reached a spiritual peak, we show up. When we see they have reached an intellectual peak, we show up. And that is because those are powerful moments. Those are moments of polarity unified through a particular theme. So our role is to help that polarity be balanced. So that way you can guide yourselves more clearly, more smoothly through the physical reality dream.
Thank you for showing up. So we, as a society, have reached the spiritual level and the intellectual level. And that is why you are assisting us. Any other gauge of our process here? Any other gauge? Like, how close are we? How close are we to that full awakening on the planet? 8 billion people? What is your take on that?
It is very interesting to consider. Many humans have an expectation that a great awakening will come and all of a sudden everyone sees clearly. That is not incorrect. There is truth to this description and to this vision. Now, if a great awakening were to happen all at once and your systems are not designed to handle it, your culture, your society, your way of life's not designed to handle it, how long will such an awakening last before one is lulled back into sleep? The old patterns will still be there if that groundwork is not laid now. Remember, a being, a guru, a chemical can give you a very big spiritual upgrade, but if it's not integrated, it can fade again. So what is needed is the recognition that every day is the Great Awakening. Every day, when you look at others and see them as children of light, you have helped their eyes and your eyes to be opened through holding people in that view. You are activating that very light we mentioned a moment ago. And that light is the radiance of the source within. So when you see others as beings of light, when you hold them in this capacity, when you treat them as such, you're helping their eyes to open. And if you do this each day in your life, as you move forward, the groundwork will be laid. Now, that is a mindset, a psychic focus. The second thing needed to prepare individuals for the Great Awakening is the knowledge of self, so the individual can discover their life's work, their life's purpose, their life's mission. You all have one. You all have a code. That's why I can say that with precision. If you had no purpose, you'd have no program. So you have a program, you have a constitution, you have an archetype, you have elements, you have a code. You can spend your life resisting that, fighting yourself, or you can discover what it is. And when you discover what it is, you will find out what your strengths are, what your gifts are. And as you refine your gifts as acts of service, new infrastructures will gradually be built that prepare people for that great awakening. So that way, there's not an old script of pattern or behavior lulling people back into that old mindset. The new systems, the new patterns will be there, so you can all really hit the ground running.
Thank you.
You're
Wow. What a beautiful activated message channeled through you. Ryoka, thank you for coming forward through our channel, Tyler. I want to just give you a final moment for a big picture perspective and final thoughts.
in terms of big picture perspective. My suggestion is for all listeners, please recognize you're creating everything, including the words that I am saying. Everything is an extension of your dreaming mind. When you dream of a future, work backwards. Think of that highest future, the one that makes you vibrate with joyfulness. And then begin to ask yourself, I wonder how it got that way. Maybe in that visualization of the perfect picture, there is an individual who acts as a representative. You could ask them, hey, how did you all accomplish this? And they will joyfully say, oh, let me show you. And they will show you the steps that are to be taken to birth such a future. Now, for all of you, when you think of that ideal future, your vision may be different from the person to your left or to your right. Nevertheless, in your heart of hearts, there is a shared vision. It goes beyond differences. It is what you describe as the kingdom, the civilization of light. It is that vision that you all look at. You all sense some kind of ideal hidden in physical reality. Sometimes it is obvious and you can see that ideal shining. Other times it's vague. Where do we go? What do we do? Nevertheless, if you were to imagine a total utopia Earth, there would be common descriptors amongst all of those different visions. Those common descriptors, that is the unified future of ascension. Meet the beings there in your mind's eye. Ask them how they built such a reality and how you too can build such a reality in your timeline. Remember, you're a macro being. You're every human being on Earth, past, present, and future, pretending to be one person. What does this mean? You do not operate alone. Many will say, I have to change the whole world myself. What do you mean? Create the patterns in your life that represent that new Earth. Share your gifts. The quantum dynamic of your parallel reality shifting process will shift you to a version of Earth where others are doing the same thing in their own way. So you don't have to change everyone. You don't have to do all of the work yourself. Discover the light within. Discover your soul's calling. See others as divinities and share your gifts. This is what opens that door. That high future that you visualized, it will help you know where to aim. So you will all be prepared for the activations in the years to come that will reveal even more. And we will allow for your minds to ponder what that may look like. Pay attention to where your mind goes when you ponder that. Do you think light or dark? If you go dark, that's letting you know about your future belief systems. So do investigate this. If you feel good when you think of new revelation, very good. Continue to follow that divine curiosity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ryoka. We are grateful.
I am grateful for all of you as well. Thank you for sharing your experience of time and space with me. My unconditional love to you and to all members of your radiant human family. Good day. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for letting me do that. That was a great experience, and he went deep. That's more than I've heard him say in a while. So thank you.
Wow. Okay, that was really cool. And that was profound. Absolutely profound. And I'm recognizing that as beautiful truth and real. I mean, seriously, that the vibration and everything is so wonderful. Again, it was an activation. We're activated after that. And in the final closing thought, holding the highest vision for our future, that reveals why we have been saying for decades now, hold your vision of new earth, hold your vision of new earth. Not really knowing why, but now it was clear because when we hold that vision of new earth, we are prepared to take the steps to make the choices that need to be made in everything, including this now moment of choosing love over fear. In the frustration of things and the chaos of things right now, we it's like a mission statement for our soul. Right? And so we know a mission statement for a business helps us make decisions. This is a mission statement for our soul here in human form on earth. So, wow, I'm elated. Thank you so much. How do you feel after bringing that much energy through?
So I feel pretty neutralized. I feel back to my younger self. When I come out of that state, I am kind of in baby mode again. Like I feel reborn. So I'm listening to every word you're saying, and I'm like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's very true. It makes me very receptive. And I'm immediately aware of my human karma. So when I come out of that state, I get to see like, oh, there's the vibrational difference. And that's what helps me to maintain balance in my life. So whenever I'm finished, I try to look up within myself what has emerged, positive or negative. For me, this was delightful. I am like, oh my God, we just got into tremendous ancient mystery. The thing that stuck out was the Atlantean because I was like, oh snap, I haven't heard all of this. So a
Wow.
little bit of me was there for that. The ley line, the Atlantis, and then like blips.
Wow, I love it. Thank you, Tyler. This is incredible. I wanted to just say we are activated. And so this message did its job. And so for those who are still questioning, wow, what's my purpose? It's that going within, doing what we love. We've heard that so many times, but this has revealed the mechanics of it, the operation of it, why that's so important. And finally, our hearts can override the ego mental mind that says, you can't do what you love. If you do that, who's going to clean the toilets on the planet? Well, that maybe someone loves doing that.
Mhm.
So, right, we shouldn't worry about that. One heart at a time is this ascension process. What I got from that message here, that yes, we are in a collective, but one heart at a time, we are awakening. And so that is so promising and so hopeful. And it clearly puts us solid in our immaculate awareness of where we put our energy every day and in every moment. So for that, this was an incredible activation. I just want to thank you one more time. Thanks.
Absolutely. Lauren, I've had a true amazing blast with you. This was so much energy. And as soon as we're off here, I'm gonna be like closing my eyes and replaying just how fun this was. It's not
Yeah.
every day I get to meet amazing people and share these cutting edge ideas.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And so we're gonna talk offline and bring you to New Earth One Network. We hope to be doing classes with you. There is a bevy of information that was said, and I know that you can teach. You may not have thought about this before, but there are certainly beautiful, beautiful ways that you can assist all of us to even advance our inner skills even more. But for right now, we have a beautiful offer from you. This is a special video that you've created channeling Ryoka. And this is all about This is like 4 hour, no, an hour and 42 minutes. You could make it feel like 4 hours. And this is a beautiful video. It's called The Eternal Celebration. It's a transmission by Ryoka of the Seisani. Tell us about what this is about. Eternal celebration.
So the eternal celebration, it coincides very directly with what he was mentioning in the transmission, recognizing that beings are children of light. So the eternal celebration is a recognition of the photonic power that exists inside the body and around us. So think of it as an informational download and instructional guided activation. So one can become more aware of that photonic field, which directly entangles with what is described as the quantum field. So all of those photons are connected to alternate realities. And as we empower the photons with programs, we take greater conscious control of the shifting process. It also allows for us to feel the newness in every moment, because each spiraling photon goes through a solar cycle. The spinning is a rising and descending of the sun. So one of the reasons it's called the eternal celebration is to represent that a golden dawn, a golden spring, a golden sunrise is happening in every moment. And if a person can tune into that, the abundance, the success, and the enjoyment connected to such an energy is what follows.
Beautiful. We're already feeling the vibration of that eternal celebration, and it's a beautiful homecoming to our higher self and this connection to our soul. Thank you for offering that. That is a beautiful opportunity for people to revel in the frequencies in that transmission. Again, it's over an hour and a half. And it's beautiful. So if you enjoyed this program today, beautiful hearts, we invite you to check this out. The link is on the page that got you here, and it's also in the description box on this YouTube video channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you for considering that and enjoying it. It's a beautiful opportunity to grow in your consciousness. So, Tyler, thank you again for this beautiful opportunity today. As we conclude, I just want to give you a moment for final thoughts and reflections.
Absolutely. So I thank everybody for tuning in and listening to this. This is my life's work, and I love doing it. And I've seen it not just empower other people, but myself as a channeler. This has been very, very empowering.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Tyler Ellison and Ryoka. This has been
Thank you.
beautiful. And thank you all for watching us and opening your hearts. We hope that you are being uplifted and elevated. Thank you for watching. Namaste. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.